My name is Malia Contreras. I am the Food Access Alaka'i here with Mālama Kauaʻi. Thank you for joining us for this webinar as part of Kauaʻi's Food System Summit. This webinar, we're going to talk about land back, pathways to resiliency with ʻāina. Mālama Kauaʻi is the food access coordinating agency for Kauaʻi, and we have been since 2018. We host quarterly food access meetings and annually our food access or food systems summit. And it's to help increase multi-agency communications, collaborate more deeply, avoid duplication. And here we are addressing our 2030 Kauaʻi Food Access Plan, which was developed with over 500 community members. That link there will take you directly to the food access plan that you can view. Here are the plan objectives. Highlighting tonight again is land access. And on our panel with us today, we have Mehana Vaughan, representing Kuleana Kauaʻi, as well as Mānoa, and Peleke Flores of Mālama Kuleana, Director of ʻāina and Community Engagement. And joining us as well is Uncle Presley Wann, co-founder and board president for Hulē, Maka, āinana, or Makana. Starting off with the first presentation tonight is Mehana. I'll go ahead and mute myself and you can share. For our attendees in the audience, please also feel free to drop in any questions in the Q&A. We'll also make time at the end of the webinar to answer those and give you a chance to talk with the panelists.
And Malia, did you want me to share my own slides?
I included your slides as a part of the deck. So I will have you introduce yourself and then I can change your slides for you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, ano aime ke aloha kākou. It's such an honor to be here. We're so grateful for the work of Mālama Kauaʻi with our most essential thing, which is food, and grateful for my fellow panelists. Always love working with Malie and Uncle Press and Peleke are true heroes and teachers to me. So just happy to be here. My name is Mehana Vaughan. I'm from Kilauea on the island of Kauaʻi. And you can get into my slides and I'll introduce myself that way, I guess. I wanted to start by sharing, well, I'm just going to talk today about different ʻāina return efforts and land back efforts I've been involved with on Kauaʻi. I'm going to zoom out a little bit to across Hawaii and where these land, and just with some tools, end with some tools for land back that maybe we can ask about or talk about today that many are using. So I just wanted to start with Kilauea, where I come from. I grew up here on the island of Kauaʻi in Kilauea, and the picture on the right is kind of my home. Kilauea through Halelea, especially Kalihiwai, the black rocks in the middle. But these are the areas that we ran as kids, all the way up to the top of this mountain, Nihoku. I do the work I do because of my parents, because they were really involved in community and taking care of this place at a time when the sugar plantation was going out and the lands of Kilauea were really changing. Kilauea was a place where, as I said, everyone went everywhere and we could go up to the top of this mountain. And then we saw increasing sort of fencing and second fancy homes all along this coast and, you know, gates and real changes in the places that we could go as a community, which is one of the reasons that I work for Land Back. Next slide. This is Nihoku. This is why we are Kilauea. It's because we have a volcano in our backyard, even though it's only 800 feet tall. So I think one of the big parts for me of Land Back is bringing community back to land. This Sunday, we'll be celebrating 10 years of this next sort of younger generation returning to Nihoku and bringing our families back and bringing community back for ceremonies, equinox this weekend, for ceremony, for makahiki, for education, and to do restoration and caretaking of the birds and plants there. The myth about Kilauea is that we were only a sugar plantation. That's the significance of the land, and that this was not a place that was used. But the more we find mo'olelo of this place, and the way our kupuna have always gathered from it and visited it, used it for kilo. It's part of the mo'olelo of a'ahoaka. And it's for us and for our family, a place to gather lauhala. Those are my children and my mother-in-law down at the bottom. But a place that we've been able to gradually return to, that our community never ever forgot, but was barred from visiting for a long time. Next slide. And yet that the next generation will know deeply and be caretakers of. These are some of the families of Nakiaʻio Nihoku, our community organization. We've been in a contested case for the last 5 years almost. The community fought really hard multiple times to protect this crater and to protect this mountain, even as a luxury subdivision went in at its foot as the plantation lands broke up. And the community won a number of things: protection of Nihoku, no building on the mountain, above. So if you're driving from Anahola to Kilauea, that you wouldn't see buildings on the silhouette of our sacred crater of our Tutupele Nihoku. And then access for the community always to come to this place, as well as the Kilauea Ag Park, which is such a big deal for agriculture on our island, and the work of Yosh. Those 75 acres were part of the conditions that were won in the contested case to oppose this development. In the 1980s, 1982 and 84, again in 1988. And a line was established paralleling this road above which no houses could be built. We had to resurrect that contested case in 2021 and 2022 as a landholder. If you look at the bushes here, and you see there's sort of some small green bushes to the left side of that picture, coming down a little bit further, there was going to be a house that was going to go all the way up to those bushes and really take a very large section of that lot, 3-car garage, swimming pool, a massive, massive dwelling. And so us younger generation have been plaintiffs in a contested case hearing to stop that and to again reassert the same line, the same development line above which you cannot build on this mauna. Next slide. So I think part of land back is remembering the land battles of the community that have gone before, because government had stopped enforcing those regulations, remembering them, requiring them of new homes in that development. But when we as a community said, hey, we're worried about this, us younger generation feel like the house shouldn't be here, and all the kupuna came and they looked, they said, yeah, it's supposed to be down there. We had agreements, and they went into the garages and they pulled out the records and they pulled out the recollection. So part of it was remembering both the cultural history, how important the place has always been to Kilauea, how it gives us its name, but also that the community never stopped protecting it and what those past agreements are. So I wanted to come to this slide to show you that ʻāina back happens in many forms. I now have been involved in, I'd say, 5 community-based land back efforts to bring land back to community and community back to land on Kauaʻi and in other places. And they all use different tools. Sometimes the tool is like Uncle Presley folks in ʻāina. They have a co-management agreement with the state where they get to help manage the park, and they get to make rules for the fishery that are based on their traditional practices. Sometimes, in this case, the community, to protect that mountain, gave it to Fish and Wildlife Service, said, here, you take it, you protect these birds that are now coming back. And then that meant that we couldn't go for a long time because people would disturb the birds. And so we had to renegotiate our way back into this place the community protected that was now for the birds. So then you have federal ownership and you have community right of entry and cultural access, right? We also have cases where land is being bought back. To me, the key is that it's Indigenous led and that our communities are making the decisions. So a lot of these things like a lease that's month to month or a stewardship agreement that's year to year, those are not enough. They're tools to get you towards land back. But I'm really working at this point to cases where the land is really either owned by or governed by, the decisions are made by, it's held by community. But these are some of the different, tools that are part of this work. I'm just going to wrap up by showing you a little bit of other places. So this is happening, of course, all over the United States. One of the ways is land taxes, and this needs to be normalized on our island. So this is part of my work now. How do we make a lands fund where every person who gets off a plane on Kauaʻi, every person who buys land on Kauaʻi knows they have a responsibility to give back lands and to support the return of lands to our communities and to our Native peoples. And so that is commonplace in the Bay Area, in Washington State. Everyone gives annual land tax to the people of the place. The next slide is an example of the Segura Te Land Trust in Oakland. For this band of Ohlone, the natives of the Bay Area, the entire land base was one auntie's house. That was all their people owned. But slowly through this land tax, where all the Buddhist church members and Quaker churches members in the Bay Area are giving money every year, and they're raising a lot of funds. Every time there is land going up in their area, a vacant piece of land in the middle of a very, really depressed economically area, kind of a ghetto area with no place to grow food, they're buying it. They're remediating it. They're cleaning the soil. It's a resilience hub. It has medicine gardens. It's a space for ceremony. They store water for their tribe and emergency food supplies. And they're also reburying their ancestors in these lots. So they have a network of vacant lots all over the community. They're also taking management of public parks and county parks and building a land base back for their people. Next slide. This is happening really large on the continent, huge land returns, thousands of acres. One of the largest just happened to the Mohawk tribe. And these groups and the Yurok tribe in Northern California was the largest, most recent land return. These are often large land national parks that are being returned or management's being returned. In Hawaii, next slide, and I'll just wrap up. I wanted you to see that groups like Peleke's running, groups like Nihoku, groups like Uncle Presley's running, they're growing all across Hawaii from a time when maybe there were about 50 in the 1980s and 1990s to 80 new groups every decade since. We found 12 new groups, including Kimo Perry's group, many new groups all of the time, just even from 2000 to 2020, 22, new organizations are forming. And all of these are kipuka in which communities are having land returned to them or they're returning to ʻāina in various ways, using various tools. And I just want to close with what that offers. Not just for Native Hawaiians, this is not just restoration of justice. Last slide. But this is restoration of abundance for all of us. This just shows the growth of these organizations and some of the early groups like Waipa, and then how many more we're adding. And then this is the last slide. And this is Uncle Press's ʻāina. And when on the continent, it's huge pieces of land, right? And this is a small ohana Kuleana. But when a family keeps that land and when a family lets the other families of the area come back and the community come back, that creates abundance. And I know this is a summit about food. So this is our summer program that we've been running in our community for a couple of summers during COVID, which was focused on food, teaching kids to harvest from their area, to care for their area so they could harvest, to cook and be self-sufficient. And so Uncle Press's Ohana let us camp on their lands for 2 years. And on their Ohana ʻāina in Kamealoha is where we would do their final camp, their final ho'ike, which was a cooking competition, sourcing all of their food locally, using everything they'd learned during the summer, and feeding their families. So really, ʻāina, whatever way we return it, creates such abundance and feeding and learning across generations and brings people back. And so at this point, my work is just to support community groups across Hawaii through the University of Hawaii, and especially community groups on our home island that are working to protect lands from development and turn them back into community hands, where it's truly community-led and community governance for abundance. Thank you so much.
Mahalo, Mehana, for sharing. I have a lot of questions for you at the end. Peleke, I have your slides up if you want to go ahead.
Oh, perfect. You got calamari for being, yeah, smoker and late on it. Um, Hello, my kako. My name is Peleke Flores. Yeah, currently representing Mālama Hulē, a nonprofit organization that has been located in Hulē estuary, or Hulē River, to remove invasive mangrove, about 70 acres of mangrove from that river area, estuary area, and alongside Alakoko Fish Pond. There's some quick pictures. You can see like early 1900s of Alakoko Fish Pond and um, Hulē River before it got fully overgrown. Um, it's located near Malu on island of Kauaʻi. Yeah, the name of the fish pond is Alakoko. About the look, if you've been to the lookout, this is how it looked in 2018. And before that, the mangrove has grown around and started closing up that area, which what pretty much started from canoe paddlers that's been paddling in the river and noticing the river was closing up and wanting to know what is this plant and trying to just create educational efforts to start removing the mangrove. And get to the next. It's a little bit more highlights of the movement slowly through removing mangrove. Yeah. And definitely was in us alone. Big community movement the whole time. From the start, the top right corner, got some Haumana from Kauaʻi School. Kumus wanted to bring students down when we first started, and it's like, oh, we don't have work for little kids yet. It's like all chainsaw and moving big trees. And I was like, that's okay. We just want to come and hula and oli for the place. And I was like, perfect. The place never here. The kind of a little long time that I helped. You know, it was a vibration, and ever since then, we kept on going. And we're in year 7 since we started. And in the beginning, we just were working with a lease from the landowners at the time to go into Alakoko Fish Pond. Mālama had a 20-year lease led by our executive director, Sarah Bowen, with a U.S. Fish and Wildlife grant that we needed a boat to happen in order for our entrance. Like the grant, we couldn't get the just under $1 million grant to remove mangrove unless we showed 20 years at least of stewardship, and then vice versa. If we didn't have the money, we wouldn't have got the lease. But I got the lease, but um, as we were removing mangrove in the middle of COVID, uh, we removed 26 acres of mangrove from Alakoko Fish Pond, and the place went up on the market. We're kind of bummed and worried. We didn't know at first. Most of the community found out first and started doing some um, sending letters to the realty company and the landowners, I guess. And then our board and executive director got called, and were asking if we could stop the community from sending letters or yeah. But we did. We had no clue who it was, and I guess fast forward a little bit, they took the pawn off the market and decided to stay with our organizations. And they're like, oh, we've been working with the community, and within the middle of COVID, the Trust for Public Land stepped in and helped us get funding. We ended up partnering up with the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, and Chan Zuckerberg Foundation did some research on us and liked what we were doing, so they donated the funds to Trust for Public Land, and Trust for Public Land did the legal deals and ended up putting our organization Mālama Hulē on the deed for Alakoko Fish Pond. So since the middle of COVID till now, the nonprofit organization has been the deed holder for the fish pond, 102 acres. kind of like the whole fish pond area and down right to where it opens up. That's the last. Okay, but for us, I guess playing with the theme. Oh, sorry, this is just side stuff. That was the last of the the print. So like it definitely was a big movement for us, not just as Kanaka, but as a community. It definitely was a big community push. How we conducted ourselves in the space is definitely heavily Kanaka led, from protocol to keeping the integrity of the fish pond, and teaching about our systems and kind of engaging our community so that they can understand what they're investing their blood, sweat, and tears into, and just re-educating how we look at local hita, and that it's not just a piece by itself, but a part of a bigger system that we can help work all together. That's pretty much in a nutshell where we at. Can wait for questions at the end, but yeah, good, no? Malia? Some of our partners for that time, between 2019 and 2020. I didn't put an updated one to 2025. But definitely way more have been added to this list. Uh,
Mahalo Peleke for sharing. Uncle Press, we have you up next to share. Let me know when you want me to change through your slides. I included the photos that you sent over, and then I added just a extra introductory slide for you.
Oh, thank you. First of all, mahalo for this opportunity to address and share the theme of this summit, and the Hui Maka āinana's journey to reach a point of land back and pathways to resilience with the āina. Okay, go to the first slide. Thank you. So this is where we are. This is a photograph from far away, basically showing the whole aupua of ʻāina. So a little bit about the hui and myself. I am currently the president. My name is Presley Wann, and I'm currently the president for the hui Makana o Makana of ʻāina Kauaʻi. We're a community-based organization formed in 1999 by the lineal descendants of ʻāina. My family has been in ʻāina since time immemorial. It was traditionally, if you can go to the next slide, be good. Yes, thank you. So this is showing the aupua of ʻāina, and how it was since the time immemorial. So I come from a long line of farmers and fishermen, but mostly we were fishermen. And in the back behind me is a depiction of my great-grandfather's sailing canoe, which he sailed in the Pali coast back and forth from Kalalau to ʻāina, and also there's stories of him traveling to Nihoa. So we are connected to Nihoa. ʻāina is one of the oldest inhabited places, according to archaeologists, and Chipper Wickman also expressed that to us. So it's one of the first inhabited places in Hawaii. So I guess I'm gonna explain a little bit of our history of the Hui. So how we got back onto the land, that we really never left. The theme and the word resilience. I don't like hearing that word resilience, because that is, like, to me, reactionary position that we don't want to be in as community-based organizations and as local people of Hawaii. Resilience means like you're bouncing back from something. We don't want to be in that position. And I think the community of ʻāina being strong, and a very strong community, never really gave up their and being isolated, never really gave up their values about, of taking care of their place. So but we did make a lot of transitions, yeah. But so it started, basically one of the main big game changers was the Mahayale Act in 1848 and 1850. So with that, we started displacing a lot of our families, and starting from there. But then by 1855 through 1877, ʻāina's changes from bartering type of economy to one. Now we're starting to look at monetary values, and so, and then the decline of taro farming because of the loss of this the bartering system. So one of the key events that happened in 1872 was the konihiki system was kind of getting dissolved. And so in 1872, through the ali'i, through Abner Paki, this man from Nova Scotia, his name is William Keeney. So he starts to farm. He was a very entrepreneurial type of individual, comes from Nova Scotia, wants to get involved with the sugar agricultural scene. So in 1870, but it's too wet. We found out that it was too wet in to grow good sugar cane. So in 1875, he tells all the ohana there that were farming the whole aupua of ʻāina, and asks them if they want to buy the ʻāina aupua. So he sells it to 38 Hawaiians families that were still farming the land, and that is basically a lot of the loʻikalo were in the state park area where we are, and up into Limahuli Valley, and on the and then going towards Hanalei, that side. So it goes, the aupua ends by Camp Naui. So that's the end. So it goes from, yeah, anyway. So sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. But William Kinney sells this the ʻāina aupua to this hui ku āina o ʻāina, which there's 38 families, and we're all descendants, including my great grandmother, Huakahi. So, and then some other changes that happened in the 1900s. Again, the loss of the bartering system, and then in the 1950s, it still was pretty, as a young man, I was born and raised on Oahu, but we used to spend summers in ʻāina and going fishing, and that place was there. We wouldn't see anybody all day. Walk the roads, wouldn't see anybody all day. That was in the 50s, 1950. 55 was my earliest memories. So, and then beginning in the 1960s, again, another big change was the condemnation of the state started a condemnation process to make the ʻāina State Park, which is currently the ʻāina State Park, and the ʻāina County Park, make it all one part of the whole Nepali park, and make that all a one park. So they began a condemnation process, and by the 70s, it became a popular visitor destination, and also it was a investment for we were starting to get a lot of investors, to the point where I had on our Kuleana, surrounded by Bette Midler, Julia Roberts, and then Glenn Fry from the Eagles. So it was starting to become almost like a retreat for all the rich and the famous, much like Hana. So by the 1998, the community started to go. They were ready to implode. Honestly, ready to implode. One of our Hui members, still real active, actually dropped a tree on the road to stop anybody from going to the park. Because if we as people of that place couldn't use it, then nobody was going to use it. But we found that after we thought about it, well, you're going to end up in court, and the whole thing is going to cost you a lot of money. So anyway, that started with the foundation and the formation of the Hui Makaina, now Makana, in 1999. And we were able to establish, through a good working relationship with the archaeologist and state parks, start this relationship with them. And like any relationship, it takes, you got to put in the time, and you got to put in the you got to build trust, right? Like any relationships. So they trusted us, and it started a long and beautiful relationship. So I think that is one of the major accomplishments and one of the keys to our success on getting back on the land, so that we could farm, because it was getting overgrown. It was turning into an invasive species forest in ʻāina. So with the curatorship agreement, and it got us back on the land, and where we could start growing our taro again. And that old, the Hawaiian saying, the land is the ali'i, or the chief, and we are its servants. So that was the values that is instilled in us. Not Kuleana is not a piece of property. It is a responsibility that you have to your place. So anyway, and then with that, with us having success on the land, we started, one of the goals of the Hui Makaina was actually to take care of our fisheries, like our kapuna were telling us, you guys got to start paying attention to the fisheries. It's starting to get overfished. We don't see the biomass that we had. So with us being established on the land, and knowing that we're at the very bottom of this whole aupua system, that when the water goes through the lo'is, when everything goes through the lo'i, it's clean. It's clean, because the lo'i acts as natural settlement basins for before it goes into the ocean, into what is called the muluvai. That's where the ocean and the fresh water, the streams meet. So we were lucky again, the success that we've had of getting back on the land, and was that the land was clean. We knew it was clean, and we knew we have one of the most pristine streams in the state of Hawaii, if not the most pristine. So then at that point, we could look at looking at establishing a CBSFA, a community-based subsistence fishing area. Took almost 20 years to accomplish it. Thank you. And Mehana and this lady, Debbie Goen-Smith, were compiled a lot of the data. Were able to help us organize all kind of community meetings, get the community on board so that we as a community could go and approach the state with this totally avant-garde concept of communities managing their own place. And behind that is the communities know their resources better than anybody, any state, federal regulatory agency. So with that, even the state and the federal, even because we had to work with NOAA, realized that they needed our help. So, and I think the major accomplishments that we've like to that helped us be successful. We've gotten all these accolades about managing tourism and our community-based subsistence fishing area. The regenerative tourism and economy through the Hui, because we're now managing. We've gone to another level where we're managing the state park. So, and we have employees now, and we have a wonderful farm manager that's keeping us on track. And so that is one of the main accomplishments, I think, is being able to be systematic about our farming, get to a point of being self-sufficient, and getting and being more self-reliant as a community, because you go through two hurricanes and go through two hurricanes, and if that don't wake you up, I don't know what's going to, and the canoe in the back represents one of my favorite sayings, and I think that kind of summarizes why we do what we do as a hui. It's, he wa'a, he moku. The canoe is like an island, and the island is like a canoe. And if you ever been on a canoe, you ever been on a vessel in the ocean, you got to think about everybody that's on that boat with you, on that wa'a with you. So we in Hawaii are also on a canoe. We're 2,500 miles from any major port. There's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. We are a canoe, and we've lost that value, that mentality of canoe people. We're becoming like a continental mentality where if things get bad here, or even on the mainland. Yeah, I was telling the story to these two ladies who were interviewing me one time and asked me, why do you do what you do? Well, I said, you don't know where you are. Do you know where you are? And they go, we're at your house. I said, no, they're from New York. And I said, no, you're on a canoe with me right now. We're the most isolated, populated island group in the world. If something happens, we got to take care of ourselves. All the major ports and all the major airports and shipping ports are at sea level. So I think that's been our mentality too, and that's been our journey. I'm sorry I had to kind of rush it, but it's how do you compile a long history of being on the land, yeah, and taking care of it. There you go. He wa'a, he moku. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Mahalo, Uncle Press, for sharing. I did include this last slide for you. For more information, you guys can visit the website linked here. They also have community work days every first Saturday of the month from 9 to 2. You can email them here for more information if you'd like to attend. And now we're going to open it up for some Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and check in if anyone had submitted any Q&A. Thank you to all of our panelists who have shared. Question to our panelists. What kinds of support are most needed from community members or allies who want to uplift land back efforts on Kauaʻi?
Well, in our case, again, it was a community effort, and again, it's about building relationships, whether it's with the state or your own community. You know, you've got to communicate a lot, and I think that was one of the keys to our success is getting out and doing outreach, and then it starts from there. There's a lot of organizations I think there's a lot of support outside of the communities too. Yeah, we just recently had Stanford University come and visit us. We've had one of many times they've come and visited. So just a matter of building that relationships, I think. I can't express how important it is.
Can you repeat that question again? Sorry.
Yeah. What kinds of support are most needed from community members or allies who want to uplift land back efforts on Kauaʻi? So how can people help organizations such as yours uplift like your mission and then your land back efforts that you folks are focused on?
I can go let Mehana finish them up. But for me, it all depends on the definition of land back and who the land back is for. Because like at one point, like the organization got to hold on to the land. It's on step forward big time. But then struggle as a Kanaka is still there. Like we get to work there, but still gotta go. We don't live in a space that we can call our own and not have to worry about we can miss rent or whatever, or the kind being able to plant your EV in your yard because you're backing where your EV stay. So like it's a step there, but depends on all the Kanaka that are usually working for these kind of organizations, making those moves, making those steps, like using the Ike to gain those footholds and to share the community. Yeah, it's like that's cool in one part of the land back, but where the food definition of land back coming from and to whose perspective, I guess. But I'm sharing that point of view.
I would tag on and just say thank you for the question. It's such an important question, and asking it matters right there. I would find your local community organization that's caring for āina in a place you love and spend time and volunteer and work with them. And more than that, find out, can you help write a grant, or what does it take to help someone, like I said, with housing, or how can you elevate their work beyond just being another set of volunteer hands, right? But then I go beyond that and helping to understand that we live in an occupied nation. If you look at, a map of the world, Hawaii is the very most isolated landmass on Earth. As I said, we really are these tiny little canoes. Away. And so articulating that reality, helping to tell that story, we continue to be occupied and the land needs to come back to community leadership, community governance, community holding, and help that to happen. You can donate to your local lands fund. Every island has one, ʻāina has one, Kauaʻi has one. You can, and that money is used to buy land back. But we also shouldn't have to buy all the lands of Hawaii back. So I'm encouraging people, if you own land on Kauaʻi, think about how that could come back to the community. There was a time when we didn't necessarily have the capacity or community members with the training to care for ʻāina. But now we do. Now we have Peleke training Pelekes and amazing young people coming up and also press, passing the torch to amazing folks. And what we see is any small kipuka or organization, others are growing out of it. And like we trained at Pai Pai Ohea, many other people have started in that group and gone off to start new groups. So there is the capacity now for these land managers. So, if you're willing to step in and buy something that's on sale on Kauaʻi that the community has identified as important, amazing. And then to turn it back to a community organization. We need conservation buyers, people who know they're buying to hold, not to own. And if your family has ʻāina and it's something that could be returned to community hands to be housing for a local family that's engaged in these efforts, or that could be a space where community comes back and grows food again, do that. That has to become the norm on our islands, that all of us are caretakers of land. And then when we're pau, it comes back to build community abundance for all.
Yeah, I think it has to do with being exposed, having the community, people being exposed to the what's being done, and getting excited about getting back on the land. I how many I've been president for way too long, but about 14, 15 years, and all the way up until like 3 or 4 years ago, we had an annual operating budget of $3,000 a year, pay for our board insurance, pay for our toilet. But we had a volunteer, we were a strictly grassroots, volunteer-driven organization. And you've been with us, Mehana, and I think the point I'm trying to make is it started with, we had amazing amount of volunteer hours. People just come down and volunteer. We have people from all over, all walks of life. And even now with the boardwalk and running the shuttle, we got visitors jumping off the boardwalk and, what are you growing, and jumping in and exposing them to, kalo. So I think it's just a matter of, again, outreach and talking to everybody. It's and one of my good friends told me one time, he said, Presley, there's two kind of people in the world. There's the doers and the talkers. Who are you gonna be? Tell me that. And that was the challenge, And I think to get back on the land, we've gotta just not be in a reactive situation, not have to bounce back from something, and be more proactive as local people. Otherwise, we're going to get swallowed. And I hate to sound like the old grumpy kupuna, but as I start getting older, I feel like I'm running out of time, so I gotta catch the young ones while I can now. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I was just sharing with Megan that it's not very often that I get to seek this ike from people such as you. So this is very meaningful for you to be a part of this talk. You shared a little earlier that Stanford University came to visit. It was one of their many visits. Are there any specific partnerships with government, nonprofits, or schools that have helped you in your work that helped it move forward in surprising or impactful ways?
I think, again, like our volunteer, exposure. Mehana brought this one young lady in particular with part of her intern. I think she was an intern, but she just had such a pelina for the people of ʻāina and the place. And she got her bachelor's degree, and then she got her master's degree in ʻāina, and it was through Mehana bringing her down. Every time she had, she's living on Oahu, Mililani girl, fly over to Kauaʻi anytime she had, you know, any kind of vacation or, you know, break from school. She'd fly over and you know, come and stay there. I told her, you love ʻāina that much. Let's go let's go seek some funding for you. I'm going to try finding you a job, you know, because we started doing kids programs. You gotta to sustain all your hard work. You know, you gotta start thinking not only the answers to the future are in the past, but you gotta start looking at the future about who's gonna take your place, who's gonna fill your hobbies. You know, so I think looking at that, we were able to get the first grant we ever had was from Hawaii Community Foundation, and it was specifically for that young lady to become our program director, which she still is. She was our first employee, and she's the oldest employee that we have, the longest employee. So that's helped immensely. And again, we get the parents down there, that generation, you know, you folks' generation, through the kids, get the kids excited, and then bring the parents down. And we have lavaya camps, fishing camps. We have all kind. Go up Maka with Limuhuli Gardens, you know, get exposed. So there's some really, I'm so excited about the future. And I wasn't that way. But you know, when I was growing up, 60s and 70s, I'm a product of that and seeing the worst of the worst. But so anyway, yep, that's the lessons.
Thank you. And like, I'm getting excited hearing all of the different things that you guys do. And it really feels like nostalgic to me, like doing that kind of stuff at my ohana growing up. And it's so incredible that like we can say this is our life's work and be able to share it with our community and the future generations and the keiki. Thank you. Peleke or Mehana, did you have anything to add on to that as far as partnerships?
Go ahead, Peleke.
Biggest partnership, like Uncle said, was the community. Definitely, like just the volunteer hands and hours, and it's kind of hard to when you come into it. It's like for me, I know like just working with just tell people come and volunteer and just to kind of leave at the end, like try to at least kind of feed them physically, like feed them with tomo olelo or like knowledge, feed the brain so that when they leave, they have food in there, in that capacity at least, and they want to come back and keep on investing in there. And the side part is definitely the grant that our EV went, goes into to help the ball keep rolling on that financial side. But once we can get whatever money you can get and then hire a contractor or something that can finish the work super fast, but then has no connection to that space or to connect the people to the space. So it's like, I think that is our biggest Kuleana. When we get like ʻāina back like this for like communities to make sure that hey, the communities is invested as possible in there so that we all can protect the place so it never goes down again. Like funding will come in and out, but we're gonna do our best so we can and just keep on moving the community in there. Yeah, and I keep you all to the kupuna.
Hello.
About partnerships, and I just want to say the schools that bring the kids out, charter schools like the hiking, that these kids in important. And then I'm that our students can do work for. I think my reception might be bad for a minute, so I'll stop.
Yeah. We'll come back to you, Mehana, when your service comes back on. We do have another question from the chat. What are resources available in navigating moving these projects forward? Can you folks recommend consultants or site planners that help navigate conversations with community and stakeholders such as DHHL or ADC? Where can people start balancing culture sensitivity and business and community?
Okay, jump in. On our end, it's us that did all of that. Saw that from the grassroots time and just kind of planning on our own and initiating and just keep on rolling. Not too much facilitating of too much other outside entities. Kind of like, what is it? You build it and they'll come kind. And then get some opportunity. We did parks and not parks. One of the agencies, I just got brain fart. They like help us with like our strat planning, master planning, like more site planning kind of thing. Is like our main partner we had that we came in facilitate something just to help do all the tech part. But other than that, we do ahabas, we do like on the solstice and equinox, like today, we wake up early, do the sunrise, and put our intentions for ourselves, our family, our hui, our lahui, and then kind of try and follow that from now to winter solstice and kind of keep ourselves engaged in those little short-term goals. So, yeah, and then keep on pushing little by little. I don't know if that's close to answering that question. It's kind of deeper, but that's what came to the top of my head.
I guess for the hui, again, we try to resolve. I think the thinking is try to resolve things in the community as the community has issues, and try and resolve it by meeting. And I think that's where Mehana and Debbie Goinsmith were really instrumental in getting us together as a community. And then once that is settled, and then you're not going to have everybody on board, but you get the majority on. And then if you need consultants, then invite them. But if and that's just for ʻāina, and then I've been involved with other projects where they want to bring in planners, they want to bring in even outside cultural specialists. I think the key to success, and whether you're a scientist or a planner, is actually identifying who is the key people in a community that you're going to work in. Identify who those kupuna are. That's so important. It starts right there with that, and get their mana'o first, and then from there. And if that's the old style, that they're not going to kupuna not going to tell you, oh, there's burials here, or you shouldn't plan to do this or over there, or what. They're gonna feel you out. They're not going to just give you information. So you got to earn their trust, and it takes time, and it'll save. But if you do that, it's going to save yourself a lot of effort, time, and money. So I think that's some of the lessons that we've learned. We've had great scientific assistance from outside, but those guys have been like Dr. Friedlander, Alan Friedlander, help us with our baseline for our community-based subsistence fishing area. He worked with a community. He identified who the top, who the fishermen were and who were the families, the whole families of ʻāina, and work with them. And then everything comes easier. But So I think that's my advice to any planners or wherever if they're planning a project. I think it's really important to identify the key people in the community itself. Oh, I'm beginning to sound like my mother. Give everybody a lecture. Sorry,
Well, I'm gonna sound like Uncle.
I was down on the beach drinking beer with my friends, and he goes, you know, he's usually the most jovial guy, right? And he goes, hey, and all of a sudden he has this look in his face, and I go, what? He goes, you know, we're in the fourth quarter of our life, and I think I heard the 2-minute warning go. I go, oh man, you're fun to drink with and relax with. But you know, it's true. Mahalo kia kua.
Press, voice of wisdom is, I think, you know, the more you can connect with longtime people and families of the place. And I think that's a really important place to start any planning. And that's not always Native Hawaiians. You know, we have these longtime community advocates who've been living on Kauaʻi. They've been there in the battles. They've really paid attention to how things have changed. They have reports and past studies. Could be, you know, in Hulē, the Japanese taro farming families have been holding it down and taking care of those lands and waters for so long in places like Waiʻoli. So, you know, who are the people who know the place and been taking care and working for it? And then what plans have happened before? Because sometimes you don't have to make a new plan. Like in ʻāina, there was a great plan for the state park that the state had lost for many years, that had to be sort of resurfaced to get to where Uncle Press and who we are now with the community management of the park. But you know, so trying to always understand what's gone before in a place so you don't have to reinvent the wheel completely. And then Peleke is such a master of let the place teach you. Go slow, don't just head in there with your, you know, just your own plan in place or your big machines without really understanding how the place works and what it needs and letting it teach you. And I think that's partly the genius of work days too. If you have a regular gathering in the place you love, and you know, once a month or 4 times a year, you know you're going to be there, and families from the area, the families who love that place can be there. Then I think the people will start to emerge that you need, and come when you call, and they'll have a place to come and to learn about the place and to work and touch it with you. And but I also want to call out as great partners Hawaiʻi Island Land Trust and the Trust for Public Land. The Trust for Public Land is really willing to work on land acquisition, small pieces, doesn't have to be just huge areas. And so they're really great partners as well. It's good to have good lawyers, to have community-minded lawyers. You know, mahalo to Peter has done this work so long in our community. But those kinds of partners, and then, you know, Townscape's a very community-minded planning firm. There's a lot of different resources and a lot of different people depending on what you need. But they'll emerge in relation to the place and loving the place too.
Peleke, you're muted if you want to.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I just did what Mehana said. I'd entered too fast, and yeah, a lot of the partners that definitely helped us to Trust for Public Land. And like, yeah, just cockling her answer.
Thank you for sharing. I had another similar question come up, but I guess the gist of it is like, what is the first step? Like, where can people start? So those who have ʻāina, and they're facing these issues, where can they go? Because there's a lot of resources out there. They may not know like where to go directly or what is the best route. What is some guidance or advice that you can give them as far as that goes?
Or land that they're going to think about how to return to community and be cared for. Different places to start. Oh, I was asking about the particular need. Can you hear me now? I think you start with Hulē and being on the land and asking and gathering and trying to bring people together who love the place. You also start with protecting it. So if it's going to be threatened, if it's threatened by development, you find ways to buy it, to stop that development, to protect it. Even if you don't have a plan for taking care of it long term. Even if you don't know how it's all going to work. You start with protecting it. And if it can be given back to community, bought back by community, bought by someone who's willing to save it for the time being, I think you start there. And then with working and caring for it.
Yeah, but what I could catch from Mehana, at least from my side of all the different āinas entering in for restoration or just trying to build more community engagement on. Never got to only get one spot that actually do it our like our ohana āina kind, but with Kauaʻi, but most of my adult life been doing restoration work and just learning along the way is definitely what like my personal protocols for ourselves and our community or who is like definitely the Hulē, like just being with the āina Hulē, engaging who you are, why, what you're doing there, and why, and what you're trying to, where you're trying to go. If any other protocols to learn, we just don't shoot time, and we just been building up and getting better at it. And then adding the people. For me, it's easier when it's āina kind, like that which feeds, so that we know like whether it be loikalo, loipākai, lokoi'a, kai, mauka. It's like what is coming back out. The people putting their hands inside what can come back out from, and how can you tell that more level so that they keep coming back out? Because that's the hardest part. Is you can bring the community out and then be chopping down bushes all day, and then some people, if they're not fed right, whether we mentally, physically, or spiritually, that might be just a check off on their list. Okay, that was fun, the kind, but then you got to make sure you're motivated enough to still keep pushing on. It's not easy, especially if you're not getting, you start off grassroots and you're not getting paid, and you more organize it like a non-profit or something, and slowly just kind of build into it, and just not get burnt out. It's taxing work. Our kupuna is doing this without pay, but now you gotta do them with pay because it's just for live and keep doing them. So it's like all the regular life factors gonna start piling on, and it's how you balance yourself and what kind. It's a lifestyle. So keep telling even our workers when they jump into them, if you never did them before, like it's a lifestyle. Like you gotta add in your family. You get keiki, you gotta bring your keiki, you gotta bring your āina, your kane, and like just kind of make sure that it's all balanced inside there, because it's gonna suck out energy, like your time. And if your āina is not part of that too, then it's gonna suck out more time just to get back with your āina, and trying to bring your āina back in there to be that time together and find that balance and find that recharge altogether. Because as I understand, like the āina been dormant and sad for a long time, like how we hold mana that back, and how in a way where it's not just taking energy from us, but also recharging us and finding that balance, and then bringing the financial and the law side and the kingdom side and all these layers upon layers. But then once you find that right plug, like get that motivation that keep everybody keeps making one step forward, one rock at a time. one plant at a time. And she gonna grow.
Yeah. Thanks, Peleke. That was beautiful. I think that's important. It can be lonely, man. It can be lonely, this work. And you lose friends, but then you gain a whole bunch of other things. You gain friends. And I think you've been such a wonderful inspiration to a lot of you and Mehana, both been inspirations to a lot of communities out there and individuals, more importantly. And I think one of the things that we love doing is sharing our story, the story of our place, and sharing with all kinds of. We've had hundreds. By now, it's been hundreds of groups, all from Kauaʻi to in Native American tribe from Oklahoma, the Oto tribe. Kids never been even on an airplane before, and come in and stay in with us and stay with them like 4 or 5 days down the Loi, expose them to all of that. And just, that's what keeps me going, is being able to share the story of ʻāina and our stories. And I think that keeps it from being can be just really hard on like you said, personal toes. And then on a personal note, even right now, like Mehana's group, which Lands for Public Trust has helped us on our holding on to our Kuleana in ʻāina, with the way laws are now. Shares of Kuleanas can be sold outside of the family, which is wrong. So there are, the thing is that was a resource, and if it wasn't for like people like Mehana, that were able to guide us through and be systematic on how we get back on our land on a personal basis. Our Kuleana in ʻāina is being threatened, almost daily by people with very, very wealthy people. Like I said, Bette Midler was there. Julia Roberts just sold, and we still got Glenn Fry from the Eagles. These mega rich people. So then they're used to getting their own way. So it's a constant battle. It's a constant fight. But with people like Kipuka Kuleana and Lands for Public Trust, they've given us hope as Kuleana owners, and then on an individual level and a family level. So I think that's been a resource. Yeah, mahalo.
Mahalo, everyone, for sharing. I don't have any more questions from our audience. I just wanted to give a big mahalo again to everyone. We are going to take this next week to get the recordings of the Zooms available to post on our YouTube, and I'll follow up and share the links with you folks. It'll be Mālama Kauaʻi's channel on YouTube. And then mahalo to Peleke as well, because we're going to continue on our Food System Summit over the course of this weekend, doing community work days. And on Sunday, from 1 to 5, we will be at Mālama Hulē hosting a community work day there with them. Yeah.
Leah, could I say one more thing?
Yes, of course.
I just, listening to both Peleke and Uncle Press and the last things they said, were so inspiring. And, they reminded me that the work that they're doing, that's the work everybody did on Kauaʻi. Like, everybody's job was caring for ʻāina, was making food systems abundant and thriving and feeding people and caring for these lands and waterways. That's what everybody did. And now we have a very, very few people and very few jobs. And So we need to make that shift, right? To that's what the jobs are. And they're very multifaceted now, right? They can be jobs in policy, making good policies for ʻāina. They can be jobs in education, making, training the next generation of stewards. They could be jobs in research, finding the pala about these ʻāina, and jobs in water system science. But we need those jobs, and we need those jobs to pay people and that they can sustain their families, and so that it's not so hard and it's not something that you're doing on the side of everything. And so that shift of making that more of the way of life that's commonplace and that's supported, and that everyone here can contribute to. If that's not our own lifestyle, how do we contribute and pay into a system that makes that the lifestyle for many? Because we really, really need it. And so we're grateful too for Mālama Kauaʻi and all your thought about food systems, because it is good. We are going to need to feed our ʻāina again locally, and to feed our families locally. And we desperately need our local families to hold the lands they have. And we also really, really need to be returning lands to communities in every possible way we can, so that they continue to feed and create more and more abundance across generations.
Mehana, go press. Yeah, definitely love being in you guys' spaces. And it's for whoever's coming on Sunday, you can just regular prepared, come with cover shoes, tabi, sunblock, and a water bottle, then should be pretty good. Extra clothes to wash off. As soon as we get in your car dirty or dusty. And for the guys who, but just one last part for that question, the last question, you get it started on a piece of ʻāina too. Is like, I guess one big part is don't expect anything, I guess, like to be acknowledged, or kind of just do it. Just keep doing it. Like, know your track, know where you're going, and keep doing it. Think about it. It's like one of the, I guess, like a little no, but we use them on etiquette, the umeke etiquette. You say like, you just keep putting into the bowl. Like the China, you just keep putting in. Don't dig your hand inside and take it out. Just keep putting in, and then as you bring more people, they keep putting in, and one day the bowl gonna overflow, and all you gotta do is leave your hand there, and whatever come out is what will come back for all of us. Yeah. And keep doing that. The umeke, we got to patch them. Some of the umekes was underground, like might get some cracks. So as part of that startup is sanding them up a little bit, throw some pebbles inside, reconnect certain spaces, kupuna, keiki, clean up the bowl, and then slowly gonna get to that point we can start putting in. And not gonna be easy, but it's a start. Wow.
And it does take time, but you'll look back and be so amazed at how much happened. Like Peleke, you guys started during COVID. And oh my goodness, how much Hulē has created already. So it'll go up and down. There'll be days it'll seem impossible, that land will never be protected, that it's gone. But, don't give up. Keep trying, keep working, keep supporting ʻohana and each other. And because the ʻāina has a plan. There is a plan for each place, and it'll continue to guide you. And your intentions are pono, and continue to do the work and show up. Good things will happen.
I'd like to say one last thing. I'm a product of the 60s and the 70s, and I had I was an angry young man at one point, the bombing of Kauaʻi kind of got a bunch of us together, and to the point where the FBI came to my house. And so if anybody mistrusts any kind of governmental issue, entity, is this guy right here. But to be a witness to the whole renaissance, beginning with music, watching the Sunday Mānoa, seeing the start of the interest in language and the music again. And then to see it evolve to a place where we can even have this conversation about managing our places, and even me advocating for, you know, co-management, working with the state. They want to, they're not all that bad. And it took me a long time, you know, to figure that one out. But it's like anything, any kind of relationship, you gotta put the time in, and you gotta earn the trust. So it thrills me to get to this point. Like, I've been involved with a lot of stuff lately, but just to see, you know, you young people be just even having this conversation, you don't know what a big leap that is. So gives me, if I were to holla tomorrow, I'll be happy. So mahalo ke koa.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. I've been a fly on the
Yeah.
wall quietly over in the corner. I really enjoyed hearing from all of you.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you so
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Hello, Malie.
Anui.
Rahul.
Bye. Aloha.
Hello, Uncle Press. Hello, Peleke.
Mahalo
Aloha.
yaua.
Hello,
Yauko.
Kia. Holy Pikoa Kia.
Mapiko akea.
Mm.